Welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for staying with Politics tonight as we focus on dollar illiquidity, and impact on the Nigerian economy. My guest tonight is Dr. Nnemeka Obiariri, an investment banker, creative financial engineer, and forensic auditor. Doctor, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, I'd like us to focus on still some parts of CBN's latest step, which is some prudential requirement that banks must follow. And one of them is the management of the net open position. I'd like you to tell us how this can curb speculative activities in the banking sector.
It was a very good step that Yemi also took. If you look at the financials of the banks as at the year ended 31st December 2023, we discovered that the top 5 banks, most of them declared hundreds of billions of naira profit, trillions of naira if you combine. Whereas the real sector players, the manufacturers like Nestle, the Cadbury, we are declaring huge losses. Basically, what the banks did, I will explain what that net open position means long. You know, we have short, we have long. Simply means banks can keep dollar positions of about 20% of the shareholders on the dollar over a longer period of time. And basically what happened was that, of course, it's like a bet. Because it will have gone the other way around and the banks will have lost money. Basically what they did was that they kept monies in dollar positions. And of course, when the market, the naira was devalued, they sold and they made so much money. But of course, like I said, it will have gone the other, if it had gone the other way around, they will have also lost money. What Yemi Kaduso simply said was that you cannot take a long position on the dollar. That means zero long position. Any dollar you're going to keep will be a short position for your transactional need, not betting on the dollar for a longer, which is very, very good. But that does not also address the supply side of dollar, because the banks also get either dollar deposits from their customers or from transactions within the system. Central Bank of Nigeria is still the major custodian of dollar reserves of Nigeria and dollar inflow, because you bring in your dollar or your pounds or your euro, you take naira. Basically, the other thing he did by liberalizing the markets where the IMTOs can bring in money and negotiate at whatever rate is also very, very good. The next thing is to also do is to ensure that exporters of commodities, especially food, agro commodities like the cash crops, should also be able to sell their dollar at whatever rate they desire. Then that is also where the physical side comes in. If you go to places like Canada today, or Europe, or any other places, most of the agro products, like the yam and all those that are being sold in the shelves where people buy them, are from Ghana and from the Republic. And if you search deeply, most of those yam from Ghana are from Nigeria. Why would somebody use trailer load to move yam from Nigeria to the Republic to go and ship to Canada or to go and ship? It's because of the madness we have at our exit port. The first time we wanted to export yam under by the vice president, former vice president, the yam that we had in the container decayed in the container after 20 days of not being exported. If you look at exit ports of Kenya, exit port of Ghana, most perishable commodities do not stay at the port for more than 6 hours before it is evacuated. But we have a lot of bottlenecks at the port, exit port, either seaport or airport. So the government of Nigeria, the current government, must establish exit terminals under a private-public arrangement with just one check arrangement, not where all agencies are busy trying to see who they will extort. So that most of these cash crops that are being exported through Ghana and through the Republic can be exported through Nigerian borders in such a way that if they bring yam to export or if they bring sesame to export, it can be exported within hours without delay. If we do this, it will encourage farmers. Of course, security will have to put in place to export a lot of exportable things that will enable us to earn foreign exchange. And again, we must also remove the criminal checkpoints by the security agencies along the highways. Those who went to Côte d'Ivoire to watch the Nations Cup, some people told me that they drove 300 kilometers without seeing any police checkpoint. There was no police checkpoint to extort people. So when we fix the physical side, remove some of these bottlenecks that discourages Nigerians from exporting goods and services that can earn us forex, we will boost production, export will be ramped up, and we will earn a lot of foreign exchange. Remember that before the advent of the crude oil, we used to have the groundnut pyramid. We used to have the cotton. We used to have the cocoa of the West. The cocoa built in Ibadan was built with cocoa proceeds, not with crude oil proceeds. Our economy then was growing at an average of 9% per annum. Our naira and our pounds was stronger than the British pounds and the naira because we had a productive economy where the regions control 50% of whatever they produce and pay 30 to the central ports and 20 to the federal government. I am even very happy that the National Assembly is considering going back to that 1963 constitutional framework. It will help us when the states will control 50% of the taxes, corporate, personal, and VAT in their states and even resources. They will be encouraged to look inward. Right. Now you will see everybody going extra mile to protect their community, to have ease of doing business, to encourage investors to come into their states. But under the current practice, where we have people justly in Abuja to share the crude oil and dissipate the money. Let me give you an example. The National Assembly in America, who we copied from, between the National Assembly, House of Rep and Senate, their total budget for the year was $3 billion. American budget for the year was $6.9 trillion, which simply means only 0.04% of American allocation was given to the National Assembly. But look at Nigeria. 344 billion was given to National Assembly members out of a budget of 28.7 trillion, whooping 1.2% and 1.8% of our revenue. If we are to follow the American model, the National Assembly should have gotten anything more than 15 billion naira as allocation. That simply means if we had followed the old arrangement we had when parliamentarians were part-time, when their salaries were tied.
But Dr. Nemeka, can we also, solve this by practicing natural hedging? This means borrowing and lending in the same currency, which the CBN has called a requirement.
See, the truth is, you cannot borrow dollar to do a transaction that cannot give you dollar revenue without hedging. It can be done. Let me tell you, I give you an example now. Apart from the crude oil resources, there are other things that we can produce borrowing dollar that will enable us export. Ghana today does about 800 tons of cocoa annually, which is their major export, apart from the crude oil and the gold. The southwest of Nigeria can actually do 3 million tons of cocoa annually if we put in place the right constitutional and fiscal framework to enable people to look inward and set up cocoa board for the southwest. The southeast can ramp up their coal, look at their cement reserves, do a lot of palm oil. As of 1965, Nigeria controlled 45% of the global palm oil market. Today, that market is about $75 billion sized. If Nigeria had maintained that trajectory, today we would have been producing and exporting at $8 billion worth of crude palm oil. But today, we import more than half of what we consume here, which is madness. If we borrow $2 billion today to develop 300,000 hectares of banana palm plantation with 1,700 processing factories, cottage, across the southeast, south and southwest of Nigeria, within the next 5 years, we will be producing about $7 billion worth of palm value chain. If we do the same thing with the date palm plantation in the north, 1 million hectares over the next 3 years, annually we'll be getting about $12.7 billion from that date palm plantation. If we decide today to cultivate 1 million hectares of rice plantation under clusters, using the Geri species from Egypt, we can produce about 9 to 10 to 15 million tons of paddy rice annually and have cottage factories to process them. We can cover our supply gap in Nigeria and export to the rest of Africa. But the problem we have is that we have not been scientific in integration and the pursuit of these programs between the federal government, state government, and local government. In fact, the major assignment is for the state and local government areas to even seek the help of federal government to support them in this area. The problem we have that we all focus on Abuja. Everybody's looking at how Bola Tinubu as if he has the magic one. If the governors decide today to look inward to develop their states, whether Naira is doing 2,000 Naira to $1, the states will produce enough to be able to hedge the problems in their states.
Doctor, we'll come back to that matter. But before we go there, the central bank will hold its first monetary policy in the next 10 days. What are your expectations from that meeting?
My expectation is that Yemi Kaduso should leave the MPR at the rate it is today. Now, the loan-to-deposit ratio of banks should be increased to about at least 75%. Let me tell you what will happen. When the banks have, of course, I also understand the fear of banks. We don't have a central register where you can easily monitor Nigerians. Like in America today, if you borrow money from an American bank and you don't pay, your credit rating will be so destroyed that you wish you never borrowed. But in Nigeria, it is not like that. The Central Bank of Nigeria and the Bankers Committee should also meet to find ways of working with even the ICT ministry to ensure that every Nigerian is documented and brought to the system. NIM should be expanded. I was so shocked to hear from somebody in one of the villages in the southeast. He went to register for his NIM and they were demanding 20,000 naira for him to register for NIM. And this is something that was paid by the World Bank. The federal government of Nigeria, working with the local government, and even the communities across the 8,809 electoral wards, even 176,000 polling booths, should drive the measure to ensure that within the next 6 months, every Nigerian is captured within the NIM framework. When we have a central data of Nigerians, and again, we improve our judicial and the just administrative system in Nigeria, the bankers can learn. And again, the Land Use Act. The Land Use Act had been betrayed over time and over time again. We need to amend the Land Use Act in such a way that land everywhere in Nigeria can become a veritable collateral. Today, you cannot use land in Okigwe or some other areas to borrow money from a bank in Lagos, unless you have a house in Banana Land or in Maitama. We need to amend the Land Use Act in such a way that land ownership or transfer of land title should be so easy, so that banks themselves can be able to have security and measures to protect themselves against lending to defaulters.
Right. So I want us to talk about the rising cost of goods and services in the country. It's so hard out there. But the CBN governor has assured Nigerians that the country's inflation rates will decline despite the growing cost of food and other necessities. For you, what are the indicators for 2024?
The indicators for 2024 is that if we do not tackle the physical side, it will be worse.
Okay.
Worse than it was even now. And I will explain to you. As I talk to you, our communities, our express roads have become den of kidnappers, of bandits, you see the way they are kidnapping people as if they are kidnapping crayfish. The only way we can bring down the rising food prices, Nigeria has 64 million hectares of arable farmland. Nigeria has a working population of over 211 million. Over 211 million Nigerians are under 65 years of age. Nigeria can produce what we eat. We have the highest water tributaries in sub-Saharan Africa. All we need is for the government in place to provide security. And the current security architecture has failed. You need to empower the people to protect themselves. When the people protect themselves and they go back to the farm, under a structured arrangement with government supporting them wholly, we will produce. I'll give you an example. Rice, a bag of rice is 77,000 naira today. How do we bring down a bag of rice? Cultivate new 1 million hectares of berry species. Set up 1,750, 16 tons per day cottage rice mills. Rice is something that can be cultivated twice a year. Provide security for those clusters. By September, October, we will have enough rice production to crash the price of rice. If it is Gary, how many tons of Gary do we consume in a year? How many hectares of cassava farm can we cultivate? Map it out, scientifically draw it. If it is maize, if it is beans, see, my sister, to fix Nigeria is the easiest thing for anybody who is honest and sincere. We are not lazy. We are the most resilient people on planet Earth. My average Nigerian can go to any land to feed himself and his family. What we beg the governments of today? We are not saying you should not loot your fact and jack. Provide the enabling environment, security environment.
So, Dr. Nemeka, pardon me for a minute. So, how do states come in here? And how do you rate that, the complementary roles that state governors should play in reviving our economy?
I will give you an example. I come from Imo State. In 2019, till today, I've been begging the governments of the state and other states in the southeast. Dr. Michael Okpara built what we call, go and ask anybody about a race settlement. A race settlement is a 4,200 hectares palm estate. It had roads, He had hospitals, he had schools. People, a man that worked there told that he lived there for 1 year without leaving that space. That was 39-year-old Michael Obara over 50 years ago. My state is 650 autonomous community. I beg the governors, provide security for the people. Allow the people to set up, to select their own sons to protect them. Train them. Don't go and bring strangers to come and protect them. Then in every community, let them do 50 hectares clusters. Palm plantations, Tenera palm plantations. They can intercrop maize and cassava. We will, in 650 autonomous community, if you have 50 hectares each, we're talking about almost about 30,000 hectares of even forest where kidnappers stay that can be reclaimed for agri production, both cash and food crop. That does not cost the state anything. What the state will do is to set them up into cooperatives. I run one of the biggest agro-processing companies in the Southeast, and there are other people. We can raise private sector funding to set up factories to process whatever is produced at the farm gate, as long as there is security. In the next 1 year, you will have created over 60,000 jobs, direct jobs. You will have added over $120 billion naira into your economy. You will have produced enough food to protect your people and cash crop that can feed them into the next 50 years. A hectare of the palm plantation, the Terra plantation, yields about 25 to 30 tons of fresh food bunch after 7 years. There is no community in Imo State under such arrangement that cannot earn at least 30 million naira annually within those communities. These things are not skyrocket science. You can even set up clusters of mechanized agro settlements in every of local government areas. Every of the electoral wards, the basic tractor, caterpillar, under a private-public arrangement. Yemi Kadoso talked about he cannot do what the fiscal side can do. If the governors provide this kind of structures in place, Yemi Kadoso, even working with development banks like Afrexim and AFDB, will provide the funding. But Yemi cannot do physical job and monetary job. The governors and local government chairmen have a lot of jobs. Any governor that tell you because he does not control the police and army, he cannot protect the people, he's lying to you.
Absolutely. So, I mean, Doctor, yesterday, governors of the 36 states met with the president to deliberate on several issues, but particularly the economy. How quick do you see a change or expect a change from that meeting? Rising from that meeting?
Like I told you, it's not enough to meet. It's not enough to talk committee. It's not enough to mount platitudes. Let them go back to their states and work. Let them deploy the FARC and the JAC and the IGR to develop their states. Let them provide security for their people. We've run the numbers. To provide security cover in Imo State today in such a way that we will have a 24/7 economy. It will cost about 29 billion naira under a private-public partnership arrangement. Imo State has over 200,000 diasporans. We can set up a security trust fund that can attract nothing less than 36 billion naira over the next 6 months. But what the people are asking for is for transparency, for accountability. Where I come from in the Southeast, we know that what we call Communal Ndinche. When the white man came into Nigeria, there was one particular region where they said they did not find prison, they did not find criminals, they did not find robbers. It's the southeast of Nigeria, the old eastern Nigeria. Because we had ways of checkmating some of these excesses. But politics have scattered everything. We should go back to the basis. The people can protect themselves. The unknown gunmen and the criminals, terrorizing people, unless there may be 500 or 300 people winning AK-47. If every local government if we have 10,000 indigenous of Imo State, trained 50 from every autonomous community, equipped and armed with AK-47 trucks and drones, you can drive into any part of Imo State any time of day without anybody molesting you. We know what to do, but we allow politics to blind us from. We've done the numbers, 29 billion naira. We know how the money can be raised. We know how it can be deployed. We know how security measures can be put in place in 6 months. The governor knows they have these things, they don't want to do it.
Doctor, as we wrap up tonight, and I hope you agree with me, this is not the first time we will be having this kinds of conversation. I mean, the revenue allocation given to states has increased since the removal of subsidy, yet most of these states are still languishing. You talked about accountability. How else can we hold these governors accountable?
The only way we can, under our democracy, state assembly members are supposed to hold accountable and checkmate the governors. But of course, we know that they become the errand boys and the house boys of the governors. The same thing for those in Abuja. So it's for us to keep on appealing to their conscience. It's for us to keep begging them. It's for us to keep sharing credible solutions in platforms like your platform. If God will touch them to do the right thing, good and fine. But if they refuse to do the right thing, I tell you, the other day I read where the Sultan was saying, they are holding the people from exploding. See, nobody should threaten anybody in Nigeria. Everybody in Nigeria there's no victim in Nigeria. All of us are complicit in whatever is happening today. We know what to do. To fix this land, we need to restructure the constitutional, the physical, resource control, the governance, socio-economic framework of Nigeria, back to what we had in 1963. When people look inward, when there's accountability, when people can no longer play on ethnicity and religion to hoodwink the ignorant masses, they will be forced to work. Basically, what we have, because there are no consequences during election. People can easily steal elections. There's no accountability. Some of us are helpless.
All right, Doctor.
We are private.
I guess we can wrap up with that.
We keep on appealing to them to do the right things.
Thank you so much. I've been speaking with Dr. Inemeka Obiarere. He's an investment banker, creative financial engineer, and forensic auditor. Thank you so much, Doctor, for your brilliant perspective tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you.